Okay, so hi there, my name's Casey, and I'm making this video for my Argumentation and Exposition class here at Western, and I'm going to be arguing the case that the U.S. government needs to implement the Green New Deal as soon as possible, and I just want to say that what I say in this video doesn't necessarily reflect my own personal views. Okay, so what is the Green New Deal? The Green New Deal is a two-part plan that aims to attack climate change. It aims to switch from fossil fuels to renewables, and in doing so, essentially rebuild our economy to be renewable-centered instead of fossil fuel-centered. It aims to have a net zero carbon emission in the U.S. by the year 2050, with around a 50% reduction goal in the year 2030 as a benchmark. And ideally, keep the global temperatures under 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And that is in line with the Paris Agreement, which the U.S. withdrew earlier last year. The second part of the Green New Deal is to stop social injustices. Generally, lower income communities get the brunt of pollution and air and water quality reductions. Think like South Bronx has a really high asthma rate due to landfills in the neighborhood, and Flint is a lower income city that has to deal with undrinkable water. Okay, so the Green New Deal attempts to attack both of those simultaneously. So here's the situation. Currently, the Earth is warming. The 5 years from 2014 to 2018 were the hottest 5 on record since the last 140 years or so. We humans are emitting carbon and methane gas into our atmosphere, which are greenhouse gases, and 99% of scientists agree that those gases are the main cause of the Earth warming. Additionally, the Earth warming leads to unstable weather, severe storms, flooding, droughts. Farmland is going to become unfarmable, sea level rise as the ice caps melt. All of these have untold amount of cost, both in dollars and lives. In 2018 alone, the U.S. spent $306 billion to rebuild infrastructure after wildfires and floods. On top of that, the U.S., we are the second largest contributor to carbon emissions on the planet, behind China. But I want to note that China's numbers are likely inflated because they produce a lot of our goods, and then our numbers are likely deflated because a lot of China's carbon emissions are actually ours. We're also 4th in the world per capita, whereas China is only 12th because we have a much smaller population. We're one of the leaders of the free world, so it's up to us to set a precedent and take action where we need to, and the rest of the world will follow. A big concern about the Green New Deal is that no matter how much we do, developing countries will still use a lot of carbon release a lot of carbon emissions, but if we set a precedent and eventually make renewable energy cheaper, then developing countries will skip the whole fossil fuel industrial revolution that every country goes through and go right to renewables. The Green New Deal attempts to take on the agriculture industry. Methane is a huge contributor to global warming, and 14% of greenhouse gas emissions come from the agricultural industry. The Green New Deal mentions talking with cattle ranchers in the agriculture industry and to find ways to reduce this, but it doesn't lay out specifics. But I think the important part is that it needs to just be addressed. And then it can't be denied that jobs will be lost due to a movement away from fossil fuels, which the Green New Deal wants. But the Green New Deal also recognizes this and promises to offer priority to people who have lost a job in the coal or fossil fuel industry to get a job in the renewable industry, and to offer training for those individuals so that job switching is seamless. Green New Deal also discusses carbon sequestering, so it's pretty unrealistic to completely stop any carbon output by 2050. That would mean every car that runs on gas would have to be off the road in 30 years, which I don't think is going to happen. So carbon sequestering is the act of taking carbon out of the atmosphere and storing it in the ground, in soil. Trees do this really well. If the government can subsidize research and scientists work into this, I'm sure that the progress would be very quick and we could find a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways that we can sequester carbon, but none that are currently large scale. And then as we're rebuilding this, the Green New Deal aims to stop social injustices. So we have the ability now, if we are switching to renewables, to be able to remove So the second part of the Green New Deal, which discusses social injustices. Social injustices occur when lower income neighborhoods don't have or communities don't have a say in where industries will be located. Generally, wealthier communities want positive industries located near them and negative industries located away from them. For example, in New York, most of the polluting industries and 80% of the landfills in New York are located in the South Bronx, which is a predominantly low-income neighborhood. And in the South Bronx, there is currently an 8% asthma rate among children, which is twice as high as the rest of the U.S., and lots of other health complications. The Green New Deal aims to amend that. Simply by being aware of it, we can take steps to avoid that. So the opposition against the Green New Deal generally has three main points. One, it's too expensive. Most people think the Green New Deal is going to cost in between $1 and $2 trillion. And while it's likely true, I mean, it is true, it will be extremely expensive. The cost of not doing anything will be more expensive as we try and deal with the chaos that's coming our way if we don't do anything. And B, due to coronavirus epidemic stimulus package, we approved a $2.2 trillion stimulus package. So the money is there. Obviously, it would cause some inflation, but the money is there. If we were to treat the global climate change crisis as an epidemic where drastic change is needed right now, which it is, the money is there. And then additionally, new jobs in the renewable energy sector mean new income. That means more tax revenue. A better economy means more tax revenue. So all these things will help pay for the Green New Deal. The second thing that oppositionists think is that it's a socialist power grab. And I understand that here in the US, we're a free country, and any far-reaching government proposition or legislation is seen as socialist, but this is a huge issue, and we cannot just rely on capitalism and people voting with their dollars to shift towards renewables. We need the government to step in and enact really strict laws on getting us off fossil fuels and onto renewables. And then the third point against the Green New Deal is that it's just simply unrealistic and we can't do it. I think that's ridiculous because A, we're the United States, we're humans, we're pretty incredible creatures. I think we can achieve anything. And B, we need to do something. I also agree that it's pretty unrealistic. I doubt that even with the Green New Deal we would be at zero carbon emissions by 2050, but we'd be a lot closer than we will without it. And we need to do something, and we need to do something drastic, and that's what the Green New Deal is. It's a long road ahead of us, and the Green New Deal is the first step in starting that road. So, thanks for listening.